She still left her baby with me to live a free and spirited life. But now she's back with her new fiancé and wants her daughter back. So I showed her the papers and she flipped out. For the last 5 years I have been 32F have been raising my husband's 32M, Nissabi alongside my own children as our daughter. And now, all of a sudden my sister-in-law Riley, 25F is back and wants me to give up so she can have her daughter back and complete her family. For the record, she was the one who gave up her baby in the first place. And now that I'm refusing to let her take over, she's making a big deal about it. It's become such a big deal that I've actually started to doubt myself. It all started 5 years ago, when Riley got pregnant with her then boyfriend, but they weren't serious about each other. She decided to keep the baby, and he decided to leave her. And that was that. Since then, my husband and I are not particularly close to her. We were not really invested in the pregnancy. And then, about 2 weeks after the baby was finally gone, my mother-in-law turned up at our house and told me that she wanted me to look after the baby for a few weeks. She said that Riley wanted to go back to college because she was 20 at the time and had to take a year off because of the pregnancy. They told me that they were looking for an apartment near their campus and would be back in a few days, so they needed my help to look after the baby. They couldn't rely on anyone else. My husband and I love children, and we already had our son, so we agreed because we thought it would only be for a few days. But then, they literally disappeared for almost 2 months. We tried calling them, texting them, and even contacting them through other people, but there was just no way of reaching them. When my mother-in-law finally returned, she told me that Riley had decided to give up her baby and now she expected me to raise her. Apparently Riley had left the country, and that's how they had spent the last 2 months, making arrangements, because she wanted to live a free life, whatever that meant, and be tied down by a baby. It wasn't her thing anymore, and she had realized this a little bit too late. My husband and I were obviously shocked and angry, because we weren't planning on having another baby at the time. We already had a 2-year-old toddler. We couldn't cope with a second child, and it was something really unethical. My mother-in-law said she would have adopted her grandchild herself, but unfortunately, she had lost her husband a few years ago. She didn't think it was wise for her to do that, because she was getting old, and it would be quite expensive. But these were just excuses, and my husband decided to cut her out of our lives. But at that time, after giving it some thought, we decided to keep Niece with us and raise her as our own daughter. We obviously had no contact with Riley either, and since she had basically abandoned her daughter, we spoke to a lawyer about how we could legally adopt. Legally adopt Abby took over a year and a lot of paperwork, but eventually, we were able to legally adopt Abby after Riley's parental rights. Riley's parental rights were terminated for abandonment. She has been part of our family ever since. No questions asked. Then my husband and I finally had another daughter 2 years ago, and our family was complete. We've raised all 3 of our children together, and we had to be very careful with our finances, but it's been totally worth it. And yet, despite all this, Riley feels she has the right to ask for her baby back. So about 2 weeks ago, she turned up on our doorstep with her new fiancé and told us that she was planning to get married, and since she had no intention of going through another pregnancy, she just wanted Abby back, as if Abby was being addressed. I asked her to give me a minute. I got the adoption papers and showed it to her before slamming the door in her face. After that, she continued to shout at me from outside the door. But I had already done what I had been waiting to do for years. And luckily, when this happened, my husband was out with the children, so they didn't have to see any of it. Anyway, after I slammed the door, and she started screaming at me, I told her I would call the police if she didn't leave. and then she finally left. I thought that was the end of it, because obviously, I had legally adopted Abby, so she couldn't really do anything about it now. But she's been playing the victim card and tried to make my husband and I look like the bad guys right now, and somehow the family actually falls for it. That day, when my husband finally came home with the children, I told him everything that had happened, and we had decided together that we were not to let it affect us. But now the situation has changed, because literally every single person of his family is telling us that what we are doing is not right, and that we don't have the right to keep a mother and daughter apart, just because we are attached to Abby. I don't know how to explain to them that I'm not attached to Abby, just because she's a child, and I've been raising her for 5 years. I feel the same way about her, for her as I do for the rest of my children, because I am her mother, regardless of the biological connection, and I can say the same for my husband, so we have done our best to defend ourselves. But it doesn't help that even my mother-in-law, who actually left Abby with us years ago and explained the situation to us, is not on our side, and actually, she thinks we should give Abby back to her mother. But I guess that's just out of pettiness because, for the last 5 years, we haven't had any contact with her. Since we cut her out of our lives for being sneaky about the whole thing, as it was quite unethical, we can at least explain her behavior, because she's just being petty and vindictive. But the rest of my husband's family, I don't know how to explain it. The messages have been pouring in since last week after Riley wrote a post about the incident. In the post she said that she had made a mistake 5 years ago by abandoning her daughter, but now that she wants to right that wrong, we are not allowing her to do so, and are keeping her away from her own daughter. The tone of the post was quite emotional, and I don't know how, but she managed to make people think that she was the victim here. Since then, my husband's family haven't wasted a day. They've called us every name in the book. They have told us that what we are doing is reckless, and that we are destroying Abby's life. It's gotten to the point where we actually doubting ourselves, and I feel like I'm going mad. I know there is nothing she can do legally, which is probably why she is coming after us like this. Anyway, what do you think? Ida, for refusing to give my niece back to my sister-in-law after raising her for 5 years. Hi everyone, this is Riley, and I want to talk to you about something really important today. It's going to be about my daughter. I know that a lot of you probably even know that I have a daughter, and it's partly my own fault. I left my daughter behind when I moved away from life as I knew it 5 years ago. I wanted to be free of all the expectations that everyone had of me. I wanted to make a new life for myself, and to some extent, I have succeeded. I found a wonderful man for me. Jacob loves me like no one else, and soon he's going to be my husband. When I told him of my daughter, he was ready to accept her as well. That would complete our family. So I approached my sister-in-law Michelle, who had raised my daughter for the past 5 years. Unfortunately, she took the opportunity to claim my daughter as her own, and refuses to let me take her back. I am helpless against her because she has taken custody of my daughter. And I don't think I can do anything about this legally. So I need all the help and support I can get from everyone here to bring my baby back home. I know it was my mistake for trusting her in the first place, but honestly, I never expected anything like this to happen. I thought that she was just taking care of my baby and my absence, and whenever I was ready, I would be able to be a mother to my child again. But that chance has been taken away from me, and I can't even begin to tell you how much it hurts. Please support me here. You have no idea how much it means to me. Thank you so much. Please bring my baby back home. Thank you so much to everyone who replied to my post. I have been driving myself crazy thinking about what's going on, but after reading the comments, I realized that I was actually crazy by entertaining these people. There is obviously something very wrong with my husband's family, and it was silly of us to care what they said. Whatever they say, it doesn't matter, because they don't have a legal leg to stand on. The facts remain that my sister-in-law had abandoned her baby. That is why we ended up adopting Abby. If she had been involved in her life, I don't even think the courts would have allowed it. She was extremely manipulative and clever with her words, which is why so many of my family members have come out in support of her. But no matter how much she tries to distort and twist the truth in her favor, we know the facts. We had blocked people at first, but after that, it became too overwhelming, and we started to doubt ourselves, so we stopped for a while. However, we are now back to blocking people, and just to be on the safe side, we have also spoken to our lawyer, and if she tries to create more drama, we're going to, with a libel suit. At the moment we are letting it go, because it really doesn't matter what a bunch of losers from my husband's family think about us. However, if she tries to go public with this, we're going to have to take serious legal action against her. It's actually quite crazy that all this is happening, and people are actually on her side at the moment. But then again, even stranger things have happened. And 2 days ago, for some reason, Riley decided to show up at our house again. I don't know why she came. By this time my husband and children were home, so I didn't even open the door. As soon as I saw it was her standing outside, I asked her to leave, and I literally had my phone in my hand to call the police if she refused. So far we had blocked all the relatives who had been texting us in favor of Riley, and we also blocked her everywhere, so that she couldn't contact us. Basically, we had no idea what was going on with everyone else, because as they say, ignorance is bliss. I guess that's why she went out of her way to show up in person. And when I told her to leave, she told me that she just wanted to see Abby once. After all, Abby was her biological daughter, and if she couldn't take her, the least I could do was allow her to catch a glimpse of what she looked like. To see what she looked like now, her voice sounded like it was about to break, like when people are about to cry. But I did not fall for it. I told her that I would not allow her to see Abby again, because she had lost that right when she left her with us for a free-spirited lifestyle. Besides, after all the rubbish she had posted online and the way she had sent her whole family after us, she had no right to even speak to us. So I gave her one last warning to leave, and instead she started begging me not to. But I didn't care. I told my husband what was going on, so he took the kids to the nursery, and I called the police. We just didn't want the children to know that this was happening, so he played with them while I dealt with the police. And she was escorted off our property. She left quietly without any drama, which was quite suspicious, because I really didn't think it was going to happen. Because while we were waiting for the cops to arrive, she kept begging me to let her see her daughter, and promised me that she would go away and never bother me again. If I just let her see Abby once. Anyway, after she left, my husband and I had a talk. But unfortunately, we realized that we couldn't stop her from showing up. We could take out a restraining order against her, but that was the most we could do. And even then, we couldn't guarantee that she would never turn up again. Moving away was not an option, especially in this economy when rent is so expensive. Fortunately, my father-in-law had bought us this house, and it meant a lot to us sentimentally, so we didn't want to move. We just have to deal with it, I guess. So I got a lot of comments on my last post calling me heartless, all because I didn't let Riley see Abby. And it's fascinating how people are calling me heartless right now, when it was really who left her baby and moved to another country so she could be free. And then after that, came back after 5 years without any contact in between, with no concern for her baby's well-being. And now suddenly Can't wait to be a mother again. Not to mention how idiotic her behavior has been ever since she came back. Playing the victim on social media and sending her relatives after me. It's really difficult to feel sorry for someone like that. And I don't feel sorry for her at all. Also, I had thought of all the possibilities and then I had turned them down. The biggest thing I was worried about is that she might have blurted out in front of Abby, and then I would have to explain things to a 5-year-old about things she had no business knowing. At the moment, it's just not necessary to create all that drama. And that's why I asked her to leave. I don't think I'm the heartless one here at all. And whoever left those comments really needs to reevaluate what they think. Anyway, now that that is out of the way, I want to talk about what happened recently. And I think after listening to me, whoever had called me heartless for not letting Riley see Abby will change their minds too, because she's obviously unstable. Last week I refused to let her see Abby, and a few days ago, she decided to take matters into her own and started stalking us. At first, neither my husband nor I were suspicious, but then we started noticing that every time we went out, it was always the same car following us. It didn't take us long to figure out that it had to be Riley. A few days later we decided to confront her. We stopped while she was driving behind us. We went to her car and told her to get out. And when she did, I read her the riot act in the middle of the road. I didn't care who was watching. I just wanted her to know that what she was doing was messed up, and that I was going to take out a restraining order against her because she was unstable and obviously did not deserve to be around Abby. She was quiet for the first few minutes, but when I told her that she did not deserve to be around Abby, she started shouting back at me and told me that she was going to make sure that she was going to get custody of her daughter. She was really getting on my nerves, so I called her psychotic and told her to leave us alone. And then she slapped me, and it happened so suddenly that I didn't even see it coming. After she slapped me, she immediately started apologizing to me with tears in her eyes. But I was done. Physical violence was where I drew the line. And then there was the stalking, the constant harassment and everything else. I knew I had to speak to a lawyer. My husband and I were obviously quite shocked, and we were on our way to the grocery store at the time, but we didn't end up going. We went back home, and even as we were getting back into the car, she followed us to the car and begged for forgiveness all the time. Finally, my husband had to tell her that if she tried to follow us home again, he would make sure that she would face some terrible consequences. So she didn't follow us back, and when we got home, I immediately called my lawyer and explained everything to him. When that was done, he assured us that he would prepare the paperwork to get a restraining order against her, just to be on the safe side. He also told us to report Riley and press charges against her. So a few minutes later, after talking to our lawyer, we called the police and explained everything. And because it was just a slap on the wrist, my husband and I thought she would be let off with a warning. But then, when we told them about the stalking and everything, they decided to press charges. So that's definitely going to come in handy when we try to get that restraining order. We haven't heard from Riley since, and we hope to keep it that way, because after everything that has happened, I really don't even think we have anything to talk about. We never did, but so far we have tried to keep things civil. She hadn't done that, but we just didn't want drama in our lives, and we figured if we just kept ignoring her, she would get the message and leave us alone. But obviously that's not what happened. That's on us. We should have nipped it in the bud. Instead of trying to be nice, our children come first, and we just hope that this doesn't affect them in any way. So far it really hasn't. Apart from them asking us all the time if we are okay, because I guess we've been a bit quieter than usual, but we are trying to fix that, not letting them know what we're going through. because keeping them happy is our main goal right now. Everything has been incredibly stressful, both from my husband and myself, but I really hope things will get better soon. And yes, please keep praying for the best for us. Hi, it's been a month since my last update, and a few days ago, we finally managed to get the injunction through. It was a huge relief as we had been stressed out about the whole thing. She also got hours of community service for stalking and slapping me. We haven't really heard from her, but I know that my mother-in-law is very upset about it. Once again, instead of being angry with the right person, she's angry at us. She thinks it's our fault that I ended up getting slapped that day, and she has even gone to my parents to tell them that. She thinks I'm heartless, and if I had let Riley see her daughter just once, none of this would have happened. She called my parents a few weeks ago, and she told them that I'm the one that pushed their daughter into doing something like this. And right now, things are pretty bad for Riley. I don't know how any of this is my fault. And even if it was technically my fault, wouldn't it be my husband's fault? He hasn't said anything about him, and I really can't think of any reason to involve my parents in this. I really don't understand why this woman has it in for me, or rather, why my husband's family seem to hate me so much. I have never been anything but nice to them, but I guess that's not enough for some people. Luckily, she had only with my parents on the phone and hadn't bothered them in person, so they were free to hang up whenever they felt they had had enough. So they only had to listen to them for a few minutes before hanging up, and even after that, she would send them a series of messages, calling them rude and mannerless and saying that she finally understood where I was coming from. Think it's really crazy that she'd go to such lengths just to humiliate me when she knows I haven't done anything wrong. I'm sure she's not really that delusional, because when I have been on speaking with her in the past, she seemed to be a pretty reasonable person. Anyway, if that's what she wants to do, that's her choice. All she is going to do is make sure that her son never speaks to her, and she doesn't have access to her grandchildren. But I don't think that will affect her, because she's already 5 years without them. I think she can do another 5. Eventually, though, she will realize that she's not getting anything from Riley, and she'll come crawling back to us, and then we'll talk anyway. My parents didn't seem to care, and they just wanted to inform me that this was happening behind my back. I felt a bit insulted, and I felt like I should apologize to my parents, but they just shrugged it off, because they obviously understood that it was not my fault. So that was all done and dusted, and now we just hope that this doesn't give into my mother-in-law's head or Riley's head, and that they don't talk to other people. So far they have just stuck to trying to emotionally manipulate my husband's family. But if they take this public and start talking to our friends or colleagues, that would be quite humiliating for us. We can't. There is nothing we can do to stop it. We just hope it doesn't happen. But at least we got the injunction, so that's a huge relief. If she tries to turn up now, we'll just have her arrested, and that'll be the end of it. Now that that's done, my husband and I are going to try and spend more time with our children. On our children, I think we've been spending a little less time with them since Riley came back into our lives, and so we decided to go on holiday. We've already started planning it and talking about it at work. We're also quite excited because I think we deserve this break after been through as a family, so we'll see how it goes. And I think that's it for me for now. And after coming back from holiday with my kids, we felt much lighter, so I haven't been very active here. Anyway, last night, I received a message from a number I did not recognize, but after reading it, I realized it was Riley's fiancé, who had shown up with her on the first day that everything started. I was really confused as to why he was texting me, but then I read his message. Well, to make a long story short, he dumped Riley, and he just wanted to text and apologize to us. It was actually Riley who had given him my contact details in the first place, because she wanted him to text me when I had blocked her, but he thought that was going too far, so he never did. Until recently, he sympathized with Riley because he thought I was wrong, but there had always been a little doubt in his mind, and I don't know what suddenly changed, because he didn't mention anything in his message, but he did say that recently he had come to the realization that Riley was the one who was in the wrong here, and he didn't want to be a part of something that messed things up anymore. So he had to dump her and moved back to his hometown in a couple of days. But before that, he just wanted to apologize to me for all the trouble Riley had caused me. It was actually quite sweet of him, because I didn't think he'd been part of any of it, as far as I knew. But he literally just apologized for not standing up for me and doing the right thing. I showed it to my husband, and he was quite surprised about it too. But then we just told him that it was fine and wished him well, and that was it. Then this morning, we heard from some friends that Riley had been crying about it on social media. Apparently, she had posted a video saying that she had been dumped by her fiancé, who she had been with for 3 years, and it was all my fault. Again, I don't understand how any of this is my fault, but I guess that is just the way she and her mother are. Whatever goes wrong in their lives, they just blame it on me. Whatever that video was, obviously posted so that people would sympathize with her and give her attention, and in the end they did, because our friend told us that the comment section was full of people hating me and telling Riley that she deserved better. They made her out to be a tragic figure who had been through so much. But well, I think we know the truth about her too. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because she's getting all her karma right now. Update 6. My last update was just a few weeks ago, and I didn't think I'd be back so soon. But what I found out is hilarious. Our friends have just told us Riley and my mother-in-law are having a very on social media. Apparently, after Riley was dumped, she decided to blame her mom in one of her videos. I guess after a few days of blaming me, she realized I was not going to respond, so she decided to start blaming her mom. She claimed that apparently her mother was the one who made her to give up her baby to Mia. Now she was equally to blame for the current situation. Her fiancé leaving her is apparently everyone else's fault now, and it's hilarious how she's evading responsibility. I think she is in denial at the moment, but she can't run from the truth forever. One day she'll have to accept her own mistakes, but until then, she can definitely carry on blaming her mom for everything, because the way they are fighting online right now is hilarious.